And when your project is heard, I will promote you up as a panelist so you may address the board. If you want to keep your hand raised, that's fine.
Maury,
Courtney, what's wrong with you? Do you have a temperature or something? Are you sick? You're
No,
here
I don't
6
know.
minutes
I'll
early.
check out again and come back in another couple of minutes if you'd like.
Just want to make sure you're okay, Court.
I misread my watch. It said 2 minutes of, so I thought I better join.
all right, don't fix your watch, okay?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Is Melissa with us this evening? No,
No.
I didn't think so. Okay. I know Steve will be in because he came to pick up his stuff.
I bet.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, everybody else.
Hey, everybody else.
Well, not you.
All right.
Everybody but Jen.
So is there going to be a fun meeting tonight?
Oh, boy.
Courtney,
Well,
every meeting is fun.
Oh, I know. Well, I just need to know whether I need to put on my curmudgeon outfit.
Please don't. We like a happy Courtney, not a curmudgeon Courtney. Yes, Mike, we got your continuance request.
Gotta put my phone on mute. So is this it, or we got a few more? I mean, I'm usually the last one in, so I assume.
We're waiting for Steve. Steve
And we
should
have to
be
wait
in.
till 7, Courtney. You're here so early. You just have to be patient. You can talk to any of us if you want.
You're just not used to this early bird thing, Mr. Bird.
Yes, gets the worm.
Steve's here. Miss Mann, when your father's RDA comes up, we will promote you and your dad as panelists so you can address the board. If you have
Hi,
a
Steve.
specific, Betsy,
Hi,
Miss
everybody.
Mann, if you have a specific question, if you could use the chat function, that would be helpful.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening.
Good evening, Steve.
Excuse me.
Okay, Miss Mann, thank you. I do see your dad in here, though. Uh-oh, where'd he go? Ooh, he was in. Nope, it's still there.
There, that seems brighter.
All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
We're good.
Sure.
All right.
Ready.
Sorry, Jen, you're gonna have to start this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Justin, I have to make you co-host. Okay, 1 second. I just made you co-host, Justin,
And you want to start
Recording
recording?
in progress.
and I just started recording.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that, Justin.
All right, good evening and welcome to the August 2nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. We are missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys, if you're commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we don't trip over each other. Also, all votes need to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. Therefore, as an applicant, you want to hear, sorry, tripped over my own wording. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative determination. And as a reminder to everybody for commenting, you must stick what's within the purview of this board, the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands bylaw. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued: 23 Nauset Ave and 0 Great Bay Street. All right, first up, voting minutes. First up is July 3rd, 2023. We cannot vote because Melissa's not here, so that's going to get tabled. Next up is vote minutes, July 12, 2023. Anybody?
I wasn't there.
I'll move approval of the minutes as read, pending any comments this evening. Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
it is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted for July 12th. Next up, minutes of July 19, 2023.
Move approval of the minutes of
Second,
July
Glad-
19.
Second, Gladfelter.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for 7/19. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Jill Gansey, trustee, Jill C. Gansey Revocable Trust, 23 Nauset Avenue East, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a porch with a second-story deck, replace a front stoop, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested continuance until August 23rd. I think they're still trying to address some of the staff's comments.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
All right. Excuse me. We have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until 8:23. Any questions or comments? All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 8:23. Next up, again, under a request for a continuance under notice of intent, Mark and Cynthia Albers, 0 Great Bay Street, parcel number 46A-15-000-000B, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct beach nourishment and invasive species management. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until August 23. They are before the select board to file this notice on, I believe it's August 21st.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
Cutting a little close, aren't they? All right. We have a motion and a second to continue until 8:23. Any questions or comments? All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 8:23. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, 647 West Falmouth Highway Realty Trust, 647 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace a failed leaching field with new Title V compliant components. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Chris Gallagher, 132 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a fence and revegetate an existing access path to the water. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and I'll turn it over to Jen.
Bird, so move.
Hey, hold on a sec. Jen?
Oh, nothing, Mr. Chairman. I was going to wait until you asked for comments. There's several people that want to speak on this particular application.
Okay, so I'll take Courtney's motion.
Carlo
Is that
Hawks.
second? Thank you.
First,
All right.
I'm going to be promoting Mr. Gallagher. He is the applicant. And then I am promoting and there's several questions going into the chat function on this as well, Mr. Chairman. I'm promoting John Bartonelli. He wanted to speak on this matter. And then a John Williams would also like to speak on this matter. So I'm promoting Mr. Williams and Mr. Bartonelli, and then there is some questions in the chat function, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Gallagher, I've promoted you. If you want to turn on your video and your audio, you can address the board. Mr. Gallagher, it's going to be on the left-hand side, the bottom part of your screen where your audio and video are. It's going to be a little like audio settings. We need to unmute you so you can address the board.
All right.
Mr. Gallagher, if you're having an issue, can you please let me know in the chat function, please? Mr. Williams?
Jen, why don't you give an overview of what this is about? I mean, it's an RDA, so it really should be kind of simple.
Okay,
but
so basically, as
Please.
Alyssa said, it is to Mr. Gallagher is having an issue. Mr. Gallagher owns a property that he gained ownership through, I believe it was land court. I believe the people wanting to speak on this behalf believe it is a right of way. We are told by the town assessing department that Mr. Gallagher owns the property, and he is asked to put some shrubs to stop some erosion on the bank and a fence to kind of reduce access to that bank where there's a significant amount of erosion being happening over there because of use.
So regardless of ownership, this is a good thing.
So, but there again, Mr. Chairman, there's some people, Mr. Bartonelli as well, you're going to need to unmute yourself and turn on your camera so you can address the board. And Jamie, I did promote Mr. Williams up. He has his camera on and is unmuted, so I believe he's ready to address the board.
I am, thank you. John Williams, I'm with the SSAI board here in Seacoast Shores. I'm also a Seacoast resident. The only issue, it may not be a Concom issue, but the primary issue we have here is that we still do believe that this is an ROW. ROWs can be on private property. We have several of them here within Seacoast. As a matter of fact, SSAI itself, a private entity, owns several ROWs. That doesn't change the condition of the ROW as far as it being required as a deeded access to the water. Now, I know there's some dispute about that, and we're gonna have to look into all the deed paperwork. I've been doing some research today and still believe it's an ROW, therefore impeding access to it, not necessarily preventing erosion. There are some erosion mitigation considerations that are being done down at the waterfront, plantings, et cetera, that don't impede access. That's perfectly acceptable to us. The primary issue we have is the fence, which would block access. And again, I don't know if these things are within Concom's purview to make the final decision on, other than whether or not Concom has an issue with what's being requested. I've talked to the zoning board of appeals and an attorney, and so it may not even be something that can be decided here. But if it is, we have an objection to anything that impedes access to that.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Jen?
My whole computer just froze. Oh, nope. Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I think I just lost it. I was trying to, there was a question being asked, and I was trying to log on to the server to pull up the plan, so. I think I missed the last part of Mr. Williams' statement.
Well, he just wants to make sure that there's access.
Okay.
If there's, if a right of way is allowed even on private property, that's still an issue with ownership, not necessarily under our purview. So,
Okay. Okay.
the ownership as far as we know, the ownership has been established or has been confirmed by assessors. So in that regard, for us, ownership is a non-issue. Not belittling anything. I'm just stating that for our purposes, we have what we need to make a decision. Okay.
And
All right,
I
so
do understand the access concerns, but the access is going to be a civil matter between the parties, and it does not involve the Falmouth Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there are some, I think Mr. Bertinelli is up. Mr. Bertinelli, you need to unmute yourself. That'll be on the bottom left hand of your screen. Or if you're on an iPhone, I don't know where it is on the iPhone.
Thank you for your patience, board.
We can hear you, sir.
I dropped out of the meeting so that I could tell the phone to exit the camera. I appreciate your expertise. I understand your view of this is predetermined by what the assessors have told you. My thoughts beforehand was the request for a fence in a neighborhood such as this is more of a property rights question than a question for conservation. Fence does define boundaries, and people will be more reluctant to utilize what has traditionally been a right of way if there's a fence erected. I don't even know if that's something you're considering at this point, and I apologize for taking your time needlessly.
No worries, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to mute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So there's several chats, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This one is from Dan Hickey, excuse me. Reference. He wants questions. Will the proposed fence and vegetation restrict access to the right of way for Seacoast Shores, and how close will to the property line will the fence be installed? As I said, my computer froze as I was trying to bring up the plan. Mr. Gallagher has given his phone number to the chat and said, I would love to have the neighbors discuss this with me outside of this meeting. As neighbors, I wish they would have approached me prior to this meeting. So I would encourage anybody to reach out to Mr. Gallagher. He has provided his phone number to you. Julianne, I support Mr. Williams' objections. This Julian LeBlanc. Blocking access is not an acceptable outcome. Again, the access issue is a civil matter between the parties and is not under the purview of the Conservation Commission. Kevin Riley, if he installs a fence, will it block wildlife from getting to the river? The answer is no, sir. It is a post and rail or picket type fence. It will not impede the wildlife. I promise you. That's me. And then Mr. Gallagher goes on to say, my proposal is not to impede access, and I don't know who told my neighbors that is my intent. iPhone would like to speak, so I'm going to promote iPhone in 1 second. And Mr. Gallagher said yes. Kevin, I think it's Kevin Riley. The area in question has been a deeded right-of-way since 1953, and I have used it for 45 years. Why doesn't the applicant have an unregistered sailboat leaking rust and paint into the right of way that runs into Child's River. We can address that with the applicant, sir. But again, the ownership, the town assessor's office has received the court documents that does prove that Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Lindell both own that property. And then iPhone, this has been a right of way since 1947. So, Mr. Chairman, I am going to promote iPhone. I'm not, so don't know who iPhone is, but I am promoting them. So whoever is labeled iPhone, I have promoted you as a panelist, and we need to unmute. You need to unmute yourself and turn on your camera, please, so you can address the board. Don't know how to talk people through that on an iPhone.
I know on an iPad, it's different than
Yeah.
a standard computer, but the icons are pretty clear.
Okay. So I think that was all of the chats and all of the iPhone is unmuted.
Okay, this is Arlene Schubert. And sorry, I wasn't able to get on earlier.
It's okay, Arlene.
My question was not about whether he should be able to do that, but and that he doesn't own it. Can you put that down? I'm sure that they do own it. The assessors said they own it, but there are other right-of-ways that are owned privately, but remain ROWs and remain open for people to access. This has been like this since 1947. Can you turn your thing down? Sorry, we have two people in the room on the Zoom. So I just want to be able to express that this has been a very common thing since 1947, actually, that anybody that knows Seacoast knows that there's access to the water, and somebody has to own all the ROWs. The association owns most, and then there's individuals that own it, but it doesn't change it from being an ROW, from a pass and repass situation. And when I was talking to Alyssa the other day, she was the one, I asked her about the fence, and that fence wants to be continued across the very front of the property to restrict access. And if it's not something that Concom is about, if you're only about the plantings, that's fine. Then I would request that the fence verbiage be removed from the application.
Mr. Chairman, our recommendation is going to stand.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything.
It's okay, Arlene. I'm just saying that the staff recommendation is not going to change, and that we're going to continue to recommend the negative for all of the elements that Mr. Gallagher had requested.
And if there's I mean, we kind of agree for this purpose that there isn't a dispute about the ownership. If there's a deeded right of way, then that's a civil matter. Mr. Gallagher stated earlier that he's not looking to impede access. At least my interpretation would be he's not looking to impede personal access.
Is he going to put a gate in it?
Mr. Gallagher, if you could write into the chat function whether or not there'll be a gate on the fence, please. A simple yes or no will do.
Or even just an opening.
Correct. Either way, gate or
I mean, if he's been trying to keep boats, trailers from going down there, that the fence is the right way to go.
Well, I don't think that it's kind of a big drop off. I don't think you can put a trailer down there.
We do have one right of way that is currently being used as a boat launch.
I wouldn't dispute that. I'm sure there's probably all kinds of crazy things that happen.
So again, Mr. Gallagher has stated in the chat function, the proposal is not to impede access. So I really would encourage everyone to
where will the opening be and how, is it on his side
Well,
or is it on the Liddell side and how?
That is gonna have to be a
how-
discussion that you can have with Mr. Gallagher, Arlene. He says, Mr. Gallagher does say, he says, thank you to a John, so I'm assuming he is speaking with someone. There will be an opening. I would love to discuss this as neighbors. So again, I really would encourage everyone to reach out to Mr. Gallagher if you have concerns over access. But unfortunately, is not under the purview of this board, whether there's going to be a gate, an opening, or anything like that. It's just not under our purview. The
All
gate
right, thank you.
fence is a perfectly permittable request in this situation.
All right,
But
All right,
again, I
thank
do encourage everybody to reach out to Mr. Gallagher with your concerns.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
all right. Anything else?
More chats are coming in, Mr. Chairman. Julianne LeBlanc, thank you. Clear, plants are good, fence is bad. Do the neighbors remember all the? Mr. Gallagher would like to know if everybody remembers the free engineering work he did to get the roads paved. And then Mr. Riley, I believe, is saying the fence should not be an issue for conservation, it's a building code issue. Well, the fence is going in the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. And therefore, we do have to approve the installation of the fence. And then Mr. Gallagher is explaining how much money it was for the engineering work. Again, I please encourage everybody to be neighbors and talk to each other. Thank you.
All right. Any comments from commissioners? Questions or comments from commissioners? Courtney?
I understand the neighbors' concerns. Problem is we're mixing two things, land ownership and right of way with a simple request for an RDA, and we have to rule on the merits of the RDA. And if there are side issues, that's for folks to litigate in a different field, not here. We vote this up and down on its merits.
Correct. Jamie, one more person has requested to speak, Dan Frawley of the Seacoast Shores Association. Mr. Frawley, I am promoting you. Please turn on your mic and your camera so you can address the board.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Mr. Frawley.
Okay, great, appreciate it.
I just want to make a point. There's a little bit of background noise. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. But on the legal question, you have concluded that ownership is clearly in favor of Mr. Gallagher. And I question that assumption. And by the way, I'm the president of Seacoast Shores Association. And this is something we're all very concerned about. The value of every single home in Seacoast Shores is directly correlated to the access to the 28 or so right-of-ways we have, including the one we're talking about here, half of which are owned by Seacoast Shores and half of which are owned by private owners. The question I raised is when you use the term ownership in this context, it's flawed. I would have you revisit with your attorney and check the definition, because I've spoken to real estate experts myself in advance of this, and they make it very clear that when you own real estate, you don't own one stick. Real estate is a basket of sticks. Easement is one of those sticks. Physical title is another stick. So it's not as simple as Mr. Gallagher owns the property. It's for the same reason when the town stopped us from replenishing our beach, they claimed it easement and they exerted control using that. It's the same factor here. I just want to make sure really clear that your attorney understands that, because something doesn't sound right to me. Thank you.
All right. We've kind of beat this to death. So we have a motion and a second on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a -3 and a -2. If there's nothing else from the board, we're voting. Again, this is to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for your concerns. Again, we implore you to reach out to your neighbor and go over this. It may not be as bad as anybody thinks. Next up, Richard DeCilio, 14 Whitecaps Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to grandfather an existing dock. Jen,
All right,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Chairman.
what's the-
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, give me 1 second. I've got to move people around and I accidentally just booted Betsy into attendees, so I have to
Okay.
bring her back. I apologize. Betsy, I'm coming for you.
Just don't kick Courtney out.
God, no. I don't know where Courtney just went. All right, Betsy's coming back. Sorry about that, Bets.
Betsy got
Okay.
kicked to the curb.
Don't know where
I was
Betsy-
tempted to stay out.
Too late. All right, I'm going to read this again. Are we okay to move forward, Jen?
Yes, you are.
All right, next up under request for determination of applicability, Richard DeCilio, 14 Whitecaps Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to grandfather an existing dock. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a positive 3 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird,
thank
second.
you.
Carlo Hawks second.
Jen will be promoting Mr. DeCilio and I believe his daughter up as panelists. The staff has no issues in terms of grandfathering the existing dock. It has certainly been there since the 1970s and we have adequate proof to grandfather it. The staff does require a survey so that we know exactly where the dock will be located from here on out. And Mr. DeCilio is here to ask for an exception to that requirement.
But wouldn't Chapter 9, when they apply for Chapter 91, wouldn't they require a survey?
They're going to require a survey. Yes, correct, Mr.
So it has
Chairman.
to be done anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I am attempting to, okay, there's Miss Mann. She had disappeared. I am promoting Mr. DeCilio up and Jen Mann, who I believe I promoted Mike up. I'm promoting way too many people around right now. Hang on. I gotta, Mr. Borselli, I'm booting you back into attendee. Okay, and I'm gonna try one more time with Mr. DeCilio's other, there's 2 of them on here. So, hello, Miss Mann. Mr. DeCilio, do you have your audio and video?
I have been working with him for over a week and he cannot do the video. He wants to
It's
jump
okay.
aside. His computer's old. He's been having a hard time with audio and I told him I've got this.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
I hope to represent, but it should be pretty quick. It's just he and I, so it shouldn't be too.
Can the board hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. DeCilio, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Unfortunately.
Yes, I'm requesting to have my dock grandfathered.
All right, come on, this is ridiculous.
No, so what's happening, he probably has 2 open. So if you see 2 Richard DeCilios, you may need to exit out of one of them. Do you, or Dad, I got this.
Okay, Miss Mann, you can go. There are 2, but the only one's in the panelists, so.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to continue. So, I mean, pretty much he is really wanting his dock and he was told that he needs to get it, a permit. But before the permit, he needs to get a surveyor onto his land. And it's really a cost issue. He always wants to do the right thing. He is a law-abiding citizen. He follows the rules. The issue was he raised his property. He raised his house in 1994, excuse me. Yeah, I think in around mid 90s. And he had to have a surveyor come. And I think they had a conversation about the dock. And my dad was verbally told that he should be okay, that he was grandfathered in because he built the dock and he had the property since 71. And then until he realized that, no, he does need an actual, he does need, he's not grandfathered in. So he was just really confused. And it's not so much the cost of the permit, it's the cost of
the survey, correct, Miss Mann?
Yeah.
Well, your father, so we, under the Falmouth Conservation Commission, are able to grandfather your
he's 80,
dad's-
he still works 3 days a week. I mean, he's just on a budget and
You're kind of breaking up a bit, Miss Mann, but
yeah.
so there is another issue. So all docks in Falmouth require 3 separate individual permits or approvals. They need approval or a permit from the Falmouth Conservation Commission, which your father is seeking tonight.
Right.
He needs a Chapter 91 license because Jenkins Pond is over 10 acres. So he actually needs a state permit, and he will need that survey for a state permit.
Okay.
And then the third license he needs in the town of Falmouth is one from the select board, and they will also require a plan. So technically, out of the 3 right now, we're the easiest ones, believe it or not, for the dog, because your father has provided enough evidence that we can, see clearly that it was, there since the 70s. It's been in the water in some capacity for all of these years. We've already established that. We can look at the aerials. It just seems to change its location sometimes. And that is why we are going to require the survey.
Okay. So when you say it seems like it has moved, like what are the parameters of saying
just
that?
Shifting around, on one side of the shoreline or the other?
It's always been on the left, but I mean, it may have shifted depending on the height of the water.
But I mean, if the property were ever to, let's say, change hands,
yes,
a savvy real estate person or savvy title attorney is going to want to see that Chapter 91 license from the state. So it is actually important for the property to seek that permitting from the state once you get through our process under the RDA. But in order to approve the RDA, the staff is saying that we need we really do need that survey, and then this is what the board's going to decide tonight.
So your step 1, 2, and 3, he needs it surveyed. So if he gets it surveyed, he needs it for step 2 and 3.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would accept the format that a Chapter 91 license plan would take. That would be perfectly acceptable for this.
And do you know how long a survey is valid?
Survey is going to be valid unless something on the property changes.
Okay. It's a 1 time. Okay. Well,
anything else, Miss Mann?
I know my dad is listening, and I hope he's not being mad at me, but not covering everything. But I think that's pretty much it. I think the reason why he really wanted this is because I think he thought that you all had the say of the survey, which is really the issue because of the money. But since you're not, we just decided to show up anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Dad. I hope I did okay. I know he's still here, but thank you all.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Now, Miss Mann, do you want us? We have an option for you. We can continue this hearing if you want to give your dad. If you want to talk to your dad, we can continue this hearing until the 6th. When's our to the 9th, or even to the 23rd or early September if you want to talk to your dad and try to, price out some surveys and see how long it's going to take. And we can continue this hearing And so the board won't issue that positive determination and then give you an opportunity to talk it over with your dad.
Yeah, let's do that because I think that's just the safest route to go since he is not actively here and I just want to do the right thing. So
Of course, you want to do right by your father. I understand that. How about we continue you? It would either be the 9th, which is next week, or we can go to the third meeting.
Yes. Oh, me? All right.
And you want to kick it out farther than that, you need to give them the opportunity to get the survey completed, correct?
Yeah, we do. How
Survey.
about,
Because otherwise we're just going to continue it once again.
correct.
Yeah.
Do you want, how about the 27th of September?
So the 27th of September, and if you think that so you're requesting for it to be surveyed before?
Well, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the thing is I don't think the survey is going to be done that fast.
Yeah, and plus the funds. So that's going to be, we'll figure something out.
Why don't we give you until September 13th and you can discuss it with your dad and get some quotes from some surveyors and then that might work.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, Jamie.
I was going to suggest you just withdraw. It's only an RDA.
Yeah, you could withdraw and refile as
I mean,
well.
none of this is with this anyway, so it's not like it's going to change anything. It's procedural. Your call. I'm sorry, Betsy.
Isn't that gonna have them, haven't they already had to pay to file an RDA? So it's better just to continue it, so you don't have to file an RDA twice. So just continue it to the 13th of September, and if we have to continue it past then, that's okay. We can do that.
Thank you. So we'll work on pricing out some.
Yeah, I'll just give you some time to see what you're looking at.
Okay. And so how should he reach you all? Or will he be getting another Zoom invitation for September 13th?
We will send your father another Zoom invitation for September.
Well, yeah, include me too. It's just his computer's old, so it might just be me again.
Okay.
Okay.
If you can reach out to our staff in the morning, Miss Mann, and provide, Alyssa, do we have Miss Mann's email address? Okay, then we do. Okay. We're all set then. So we'll continue this until September 13th.
So I'll make a motion to continue this hearing till September 13th. Gladfelter.
Bird second, and I just have a comment that the applicant should perhaps meet with staff in the interim and offline and work out the details so it would go smoothly for you and everything else.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this until September 13th. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we're going to call for the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 13th. Thank you, Ms. Mann.
Thank you. Have a good day all, or evening.
Thank you.
But RDAs are supposed to be quick. Next up, Christopher Lemley, trustee, Osprey Nest Realty Trust, 96 Chappaquoit Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct repairs on an existing licensed pier, including the replacement of handrails, decking, and float supports. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right. Next up, a request for hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, for public commenting, it's limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Lawrence F. and Lisa N. White, trustees, 194 Ecopesket Road Realty Trust, 194 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an unpermitted patio to be reconstructed in a new location and to install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up to present his project.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I represent Lawrence White, the property owner at 194 Ecopesket Road. His property has waterfront on Green Pond. And the wetland resources of note are land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, a narrow band of salt marsh, a coastal bank, which is delineated on the plan, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is AE 13 between the two blue lines and AE 15 seaward of this blue line. There is an existing house with deck and patio on the property. There's also a separate patio with fire pit located in this position. We discovered that this patio was installed without permission. We advised the client that on our reading of the regulations, a patio could not be approved in this position because it's closer to the wetland resources than the closest point of the present primary structure. So the application proposes to remove this patio, restore it with loam and seed, and to instead build it in a location that is approvable by the wetlands regulations in this location, which is also adjacent to the existing house and existing decks. This position is located such that it does not go closer than the closest point of the existing primary structure, that being this point of the deck, which is already more than 100 feet from the edge of salt marsh and is outside the no disturbance zone A of the salt marsh. The proposed patio is designed to come up to, but not be within the 100-foot no disturbance zone from the salt marsh. So it meets the requirements of FWR 10.18. It is within the outer buffer zone, the 50-foot outer buffer zone of a coastal bank. And because of that, the area of the patio, which is 339 square feet, must be mitigated at a 2-to-1 ratio, which is outlined on the plan, doubling the size of the patio at 678 square feet. And we propose to enhance the existing buffer on both sides, splitting the mitigation area in half. So it's 339 square feet on both sides. And because your regulations require 1 tree for every 1,000 square feet of mitigation planting, and we are proposing 678 square feet of mitigation, I can't give you a 0.68 trees, so I have to give you a rounded up to 1 tree. And we're proposing 1 2-inch to 2.5 inch caliper inch tupelo tree to be located in the buffer. The location had not been determined yet. I I will tell you that it will be within the no disturbance zone A in some location in the lawn area. The proposed mitigation planting is shaded in green, and we were not able to really consult with the client on what species, but in reviewing the staff report, we concur that they should be shade tolerant because there's partial shade because of the canopy of the existing oak trees here. So we're proposing a mix of viburnum and clethra, which I can specify on the plan and supplement with a revised plan. It would be a mix of arrowwood, viburnum, and clethra, and it would be the 2-gallon size planted 3 feet on center. And we actually calculated using the plant calculator the total number of plants as 88 if you plant 3 feet on center in staggered rows. So each of these green areas would have 44 plants, and there'd be 1 tupelo. I think that sums it up, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think the only comments were regarding the mitigation. Thank you, Mike. We'll determine in the field where the tupelo is going, and I think the only other issue was when the agents went out to the property, they noticed on the northern, I believe it was the northern part, correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, there was already some existing vegetation there, so your 44 shrubs will just have to be planted in and around that existing vegetation.
Oh yeah, we're
Okay.
definitely putting them in lawn areas. That's where we had chosen.
Perfect. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner comments. Betsy?
I have no questions, Mike, but I do have a comment. That was a delightfully short, succinct presentation.
And I remember the tree.
Yeah, and I liked it. I like that you're not giving us 6/10 of the tree.
Right.
Oh my. All right. Courtney?
I agree with Betsy. No other comments.
Thank you. I'll give you the trifecta, Mike. Kevin?
Oh, what's number 4? I'll go along with it.
Let's make it up, a quad factor. Quad factor? Maury?
Something.
No comments at this time. Thank you, Mike.
Steve?
Well, I'll have to ask some questions about caliper inches of trees or something, but no, I really don't. Thank you for the presentation.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I think it's in our chat. Not for
Yeah.
this project, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to
Excellent.
close the hearing and take it under advisement.
And I'll second it. Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, a call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners.
It looks as if there must be a spectacular sunset looking at the reflections at Courtney's house.
There is a spectacular sunset, I have to admit.
It's reflecting off your face and off the wood behind you.
You can see it in my glasses.
Yeah.
The sun is setting right down in the cut over Woodneck Beach. Beautiful.
All right, moving on. John and Joan M. Ripple Revocable Trust, 44 Gosnold Road, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to renovate and expand an existing dwelling and to reconfigure exterior hardscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Berselli is still here to present his second project of the evening.
Woohoo! Welcome back, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, commissioners, for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, representing the applicant. Permission to share my screen.
Absolutely, sir.
I'm sharing with you the current existing conditions on the property. Property is located on Gosnold Road in Woods Hole. It's directly adjacent to the beach, Marine Biological Laboratory beach parking lot. I can't remember the name of this beach, it's slipping my mind.
Stony Beach.
Stony Beach. Probably because it's not sandy.
Yeah, that's one reason.
There's another reason too. Yeah.
Never mind.
So this property is a typical residential property with a house and an attached garage, driveway, yard areas. It has frontage on Buzzards Bay, which is land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a small beach on the frontage. There's very old stone retaining walls and riprap, which would define the top of a coastal bank, which we've shown. On the south side where Stony Beach is and the Marine Biological Laboratory parking lot is for the beach, is actually that whole parking lot and is built on a dune back in the day. And adjacent to the parking lot is still some vegetated dune areas, and they basically bound the boundary is right at a stockade fence on our property line that's in common. So there's two sides with wetland resources. So we've shown the associated A and notice driven zone A and outer buffer zone Bs to these resources. And we did a tabulation of the impervious surfaces for the existing condition, which is shown on the plan. And then we are proposing some alterations, but I wanted to point out some things on this plan of note. This existing brick walk that leads off of the brick driveway. There's a porch with stairway here, a little bit of wider brick area. There's a brick area between the house and the garage. There's a large paver patio that's out in front of the house that for the most part is outside of the 100-foot jurisdiction from the wetland resources. The proposed situation, if you compare that to this, is pretty similar, but they're updating some things, changing some things, enclosing a small section leading between the garage and the house, but certainly within the confines of the footprint. So they're going to remove this brick walkway. It doesn't serve any viable purpose for them, but they want to have a smaller walkway in this location. They're going to remove these steps. They're going to put some modified steps here. They're going to enclose this area that's crosshatched the opposite direction of the with wider cross hatching, I should say, than this. And this brick walk will be resurfaced. It needs to be sort of renovated. They're going to eliminate this walkway and put a straighter walkway here. They're going to change the entry to make it more centered on the house, and they're going to put a granite landing here. And the rest of this patio is going to remain. When the dust settles on all that, by design, there's an overall reduction in impervious surfaces. So there's no requirement for mitigation planting. That sums up the project. The staff had some comments that I think I can answer. Very, very simple comments. I always like to see when there's only 1 or 2 sentences on the staff comments. And in this case, there's only 2 sentences. Is there an increase in the structure in the velocity zone? Please note the increase or decrease for future reference. There's really no increase in structure because this area between the garage and the house is roofed over, but what they propose to do at the ground level is enclose it. This bold line represents an enclosure of this sort of L-shaped area, which measures 115 square feet. That'll just allow for a out of the weather connection between the 2 houses. So that's the only change in the velocity zone, and that's really partially in the FEMA V zone and partially in the Falmouth V zone, but it's well below the 200 square feet allowed. Evidently, we didn't note the location of an existing AC condenser, fire pit, or generator. So I can add those to the plan. I apologize for that. We just overlooked those things. I can certainly give you a revised plan with those existing features. And that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Jen,
I have no questions or comments, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Ms. Bergeron,
No comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments. Courtney,
No comments.
okay. Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
okay. Maury,
I would just recommend that on the plan that you put what the square footage is so that in the future it's easier to calculate. I think it was 92 square feet or something that you're increasing in the V zone. I know it's not exceeding the 200, but it is a bite out of the apple. So the next time they want to come in front of us, they're only going to have 108 square feet left to work with. So it should be on the plan that that's the amount of increase in the V zone.
I can certainly do that.
Yeah, the AC units aren't in the V zone, are they?
I believe they're located in the Falmouth V zone only on the north side of the house.
Okay, they should be included as square footage as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was all. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
thank you. Steve,
Oh, thank you. And for the staff's had all our questions again. So,
all right. Betsy,
No questions or
okay.
comments.
Or comments. All right. Jen, where the buildings are already connected, does that really mean that what he's closing is adding to the V zone footage?
Well, I mean, I think about it like this, you wouldn't add a patio to that, so I would consider it enclosing it to add that extra living space
Habitable.
and footprint, so, yeah.
Okay.
It's more structure if there's a storm.
Yeah, it's more, we're adding
Okay.
vertical walls and everything in the V zone, and that's an issue.
Okay. Sorry, Mike, I tried.
No, that's
All right.
fine. We
And
were
Mike, you
aware-
said it was 115, correct? So if you could just add that note when you add the AC units, and if you just update the plan of reference, that's
Yep.
good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Read enough chats today. No, there's nothing in public chat function, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's no further comments or questions, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Steve,
and I,
it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you once again, Mike.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mike.
Night.
Hi, Mike.
Night, Mike.
Good night.
Next up, Edgar J. and Rosemary R. McLaughlin, 8 Grassmere Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a retaining wall, replace stairs, and to install a concrete pad. For after-the-fact permission to construct a patio, retaining wall, and steps. And to install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Mark Gibb up from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his plan.
All right. Where are you, Mark?
I just give me 1 second. When I clicked video, it said it wasn't detected. Let me unplug just the camera real quick and I'll be right back. Sorry. Oh, I've been here the whole time and my camera is not working. Need to ask this, but can I leave the entire Zoom and come back as quickly as possible? I
All right, Jen,
apologize.
should we table this?
We can table this. We'll take Tom Bunker next, Nemansett Road. So yeah, we'll table you, Mark.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No
I'll
worries.
make a motion to table this hearing.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, this is, we have motion a second to table this hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right, unanimous. We have tabled this hearing. So that brings us to True Compass LLC, 179 BB Acres Road.
That's another Mark Dib one, Mr. Chairman. So I would ask that we table that one as well and just skip right down to 28 Nemansett.
All right, can we just skip it since I didn't
Yes,
know?
just skip it. Take it out of
Okay.
order.
All right, hear you, we're out of order. Next up for now, Andrea A. Brennan, trustee. Andrea A. Brennan, 2011 revocable trust, 28 Nemasket Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct and enlarge an accessory structure, for after the fact permission to expand a parking area and patio, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Mr. Bunker up from BSS Design to present his hearing. Evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Bunker's up, sir.
In the line.
I don't think I'll be as quick as Mike was on his first hearing, but
Better.
for the, I wish I could. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design and prepared this plan and application for the for Andrea Brennan on 28 Nemasket Road, and I will share my screen if I may.
Absolutely, sir.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, I will first mention one thing in the staff report that Alyssa wanted to see the previous mitigation planting from 2 previous jobs on the site, and so I have done that. This lighter bluish green color all around the gazebo and the swimming pool in this area was all the mitigation planting. I think that we got compliance in about 5 years ago, 2018. This property has a wetland. It's a BVW in the southwest corner here at LEC flagged. This location, the existing house, all of this has all been talked about before in other hearings. The flood zone, it is a VE flood zone, and with a 50-foot zone VE flood zone, and any coastal bank in there, but is not a coastal bank, is a 50-foot zone A, and here we have the 25-foot Falmouth velocity zone here, and from there it's an AE 15 flood zone, which goes up all this hill. This is all, well, the slopey parts of it are coastal bank up to the flood zone X in this location, and you can see that this is the building in question that they want to rebuild. The part of the driveway is coastal bank here. This area is coastal bank. The 100-foot setback, the zone B of the wetland is down here. So I would say this came up in the staff report. I'd say that this coastal bank is more than 100 feet from any other resource area and thus has no zone A. If it was within 100 feet, it would have a 25-foot zone A. There's coastal bank here, and I think in my narrative, I said it wraps around the building, and Alyssa called me on that. There's coastal bank up this, the west side of this building and the east side of the building, but there is no coastal bank on the south side where there's pavement. It's level down here. It is in the flood zone, but level. And also this area up here is above the flood zone. It is steeper than 10-1. It's at some sides, but it's out of the flood zone, so it's not a coastal bank there. And of course, it does have a 100-foot zone B, which goes off the page there. The project is to rebuild this building, and there's an existing building here. The enlargement is a proposed deck around it, and this is to Alyssa. The note here does say it's to rebuild on a new foundation. It's about 4 inches bigger in both directions, 24 feet 2 inches, going to 24 feet 6 inches in each direction here. So it is larger. There's a patio entry, small entry deck here, which is not being rebuilt. So that part violates the zoning setback regulations from the street line, which is up here. That part is not being rebuilt, and the access to the building. This is the lower part of the building is in flood zone, so it can only be used for storage, building access. It was a garage at one time, but it's no longer going to be garage, but it's just storage and what have you. And then on the first floor, which is above the flood zone, be what's in there now. It's a bedroom and a kitchenette, I believe, but it's not a separate dwelling unit. The addition is across the deck here. I should note that there's an existing bedroom in here, so there are no bedrooms being. There's not an increase in bedrooms from this project. So this deck is going on here. It does stick out into the pavement below. So all this pavement will be cut back to 24 inches away from it. It's built on some columns here, full foundation under the building itself with flood vents, of course. And this deck will wrap around, and there are steps going down here to a foundation. This is on sort of a side slope and sort of make a level landing. I can show a little axonometric here. To make a level landing, there's a sort of square foundation coming out from the building. And here, and the outside steps are coming down, and there's a crushed stone. This area is filled with crushed stone to capture the runoff coming through the steps. And also when runoff comes through the steps onto ground below it where there's nothing growing, you get erosion. So this is really, this part of it is really an erosion control item to catch the water and just infiltrate it into the stone here. But then there's also a crushed stone with a single slab stepping stone, and another one out down to meet up with the existing stones, which are running down the slope as we have it now. This is on a coastal bank. It's a coastal bank that's actually only a very small part of it. Frankly, underneath the deck itself, it's not coastal bank. It's just this corner of it here that's steeper than 10-1 in this location, but it is all lawn. Feel that, and it's all lawn, and this will capture any runoff that goes through the steps. It's will not endanger or make this bank any more prone to erosion. Won't negate any of the characteristics or the functions of a coastal bank, a vertical buffer to storm damage, or habitat, because there's no habitat there now. So it is a coastal bank, and I feel there'll be no detrimental effect on that. And the building presently has no dry wells. We're adding storm drainage, a pair of dry wells up here and a pair of dry wells in here. We can't put it down here because the existing septic system is in this area. We have to stay 25 feet away, but then also a pair of dry wells in the area here between the property line and the paved the parking area. We do have this mitigation is actually for the increase in the coverage. This parking area is repaved. There used to be an island in the middle of it here. It was repaved and squared off. So within zone B right here, it had well, zone B 421 square feet. I think the patio and the additional pavement is 421 square feet. So we have 842 square feet of mitigation planting. Plus there were several trees in the center of the island, and some here, which Brennan said was trees which had insect or storm damage, but there were other trees that were removed for the paving. So I've shown 4 white oak trees to be planted in this location. That's what we're proposing. So I'll take this down and take any questions.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Jen?
Tom, can you just ask your clients to stop cutting their mitigation?
I sent the staff report in an email to them today, and they have it. I would like to say one thing, which Ms. Brennan replied, and they use that at least partly, but she said, if we fill that in and we can't get through there to cut back the briary things that are kind of invade, and I don't know if those are invasive things or whatever, I think that would be good for perhaps Alyssa or someone to go out there and talk to the Brennans and see about if they can keep something there for maintenance purposes.
I also meant the height of their mitigation.
Oh, the height of it. Yes, that's right. Yep. She got that message
Nature
too.
doesn't grow like this.
Right.
Doesn't
Yep.
grow all uniform like that. So that needs to
No.
kind of stop.
Yeah, she got it.
And all right. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Just to comment on what Tom says for those, I guess they're considering the maintenance paths through the mitigation. Yeah, we can certainly go out there and meet with them. Perhaps we can maintain at least one path, but ideally those mitigation areas are meant to be returned to nature and sort of whatever happens. But we can certainly take a look at it and see how damaging those invasives and the aggressive native vines can be. But that's my only comment. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Maury?
I'd like to have the first floor elevation put on the garage.
Oh, you're right.
All right, and the other thing that the septic, obviously, you're saying that there's always been a bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen in that building. So that bathroom and that septic is okay
Yes.
with the existing house. Okay.
Yeah, I could, there is the floor elevation is labeled, but in a note to the side. It is top of ridge, let me see, main floor elevation 19.25.
All right, it's on the plan. Well, usually you put it on the building. I'm sorry, I'm not go searching stuff. Put it on the building, please.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that you missed it, I missed it.
Yes. There was too big a note to
Be
fit inside the
consistent.
building, but I can put in there.
Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. Steve?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thank you, Tom and Jamie.
Courtney,
I'd like to see a plan for invasive management that doesn't involve horizontal cutting.
all right. Kevin,
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project.
Thank
I'll
you.
make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement then.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting. This is to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
All right, thank you all.
Night,
Have a good
Tom.
night. Good night.
Aye, Tom.
Good night, Tom.
Good night.
All right, Jen, do you have Mr. Dibb available or? we
Mr.
moving
Dibb
forward?
has not come back. I just sent him an email.
Oh, he just popped in.
Oh,
How did he do that?
I don't know.
Like magic.
There he is.
All right, hold
Hey,
on,
Mark.
hold on. So the first thing we need to do is untable Grassmere.
I make a
So
number
motion.
eight.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second to untable 8 Grassmere. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
Thank you. It's unanimous. We have untabled. So I'm going to read it for the record. We're back at Edgar J. and Rosemary R. McLaughlin, 8 Grassmere Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a retaining wall, replace stairs, and to install a concrete pad. For after the fact permission to construct a patio, retaining wall, and steps, and to install mitigation plantings. Mr. Dibb, in theory, you're up now.
Good evening. Sorry about that. Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering on behalf of the applicant, Rosemary McLaughlin, for notice of intent at 8 Grassmere Drive in Falmouth. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the project before you tonight is an existing dwelling at 8 Grassmere. The project is located on Jones Pond to the northwest and Grassmere Drive to the southeast. It's an existing dwelling that has a existing house, driveway, existing pool and patio, gazebo, and there's an existing timber retaining wall in this area and existing shed and other retaining walls on site, as well as there's some existing pool equipment on the ground currently in this location. The proposal tonight, the primary proposal, is to repair this existing timber wall. It's falling apart, falling down. And 2 other items is to this existing pool equipment that is now sitting on the ground. They would like to put on a small 4x8 concrete pad, as well as there's an existing rusty circular staircase that is currently on the wooden deck. They want to put in a more normal construction stairwell on that on this portion of the house. The resource areas for the project, I'm actually going to go to the plan without the aerial. It was a staff request to provide a plan without the aerial to help see some of the line work. Resource areas consistent of an inland bank on Jones Pond, a BVW delineated, and then the resulting 75-foot A buffer zone from the inland bank and an additional 25-foot B buffer zone. The existing house, just a little background, because you'll see there's some highlighted areas. Again, the main proposal of the project started out to be replacement of this timber wall. I have a couple quick pictures I'll show at the end of the presentation. However, we noted that when comparing the other plans on file from '94, that this shed and this portion of these two walls did not exist at that time, as well as this other portion of wall. And there's a deck, a small deck with stairs down to the grade on the other side of the wall that appear to be not permitted, but also built back somewhere around 2005. So when we were preparing this notice of intent, we tried to both address the components that we're proposing, as well as non-conforming issues on the site, or non-permanent issues on the site. So the mitigation proposed does take into account these red areas. There's a small orange area to provide access along this wall on the upland side versus the BVW side, as well as some work in the B zone for the stairs and this concrete pad. And we proposed some mitigation along the bottom of the wall, and I can show some pictures on that as well. Essentially, that's the proposal, is to replace this timber retaining wall with a stone block wall, and these two items on site. I'd like to just go over the staff comments because they kind of go hand in hand with just some pictures I'm going to show at the end of the presentation. They did request to remove the aerial off the plan so you can see some of the underlying line work. We can definitely resubmit this plan to go with that. There was a question. It looked like this A zone was 50 feet off the BVW. Didn't match up that way, but it's actually the 75 foot off the inland bank is what the A zone shows. There is I'm going to go back to the arrow real quick. There is a dilapidated dock and boat that is associated with this property. In the future, we do plan to file another application to haven't even gotten to the point of deciding what, if it's going to be for potentially to license it as is, or what that application may entail, but we do plan to address that under a separate filing. And there was a question, I believe there's an AC unit over on this end of the house that we will show on the plan, as well as the railroad ties retaining wall. And there was one quick question. It looked like there's a piece of wetland. Basically, our A3 wetland flag is right here, and the A4 was here. So it looked like the wetland was cutting through the wall. In reality, we believe the wetland comes around and goes around that wall that's been in existence for almost 20 years. We can either make that revision or just continue to show that connection between the flags Brad Holmes had put there. And last, I'm going to just change to some pictures real quick and discuss the mitigation area, and then we can go to questions. So in staff report, they showed some pictures. The first picture in the staff report is essentially this area. We did the survey in April. It looked quite overgrown with just vines and things like that. So we did basically that green area on our plan was this area to restore with native plants and shrubs. This is the other side of the mitigation area, what it looked like in April. Which is now quite vegetated, as well as you can see the condition of the wall. They had put these supports in, and even those are failing now. And the wall, there's no question the wall doesn't need repair. And again, this is back looking left, the area we had proposed for mitigation, which is now quite vegetated in the summer. So we can all talk about that question. And in the plan, we are proposing to remove this structure, reset the sonotubes that are being pushed over by the failing wall, and then reset it right back in that same position. And just for your information, this is the staircase that's proposed to be just removed with a new set of stairs that will come down to this patio. So, I mean, I think the biggest question back to the commission is how, we were trying to propose mitigation for both the proposed changes and as well as what we felt could have been unpermitted structures. The staff did raise question whether that area for mitigation was appropriate. I think the actual proposed work of replacing the wall is in the same footprint. The 4x8 concrete pad for the pool equipment and the stairs is a total of about 60 square feet of work. The majority of this mitigation we were trying to propose was for the historical things from roughly about 2005, as far as we can tell. So we're looking for the commission's input on whether we could, clean that area up with more native shrubs and that if that would be sufficient or not, basically. I'll give it back to the commission now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think from my point of view, I think that the biggest question is the mitigation. We usually don't allow people to remove invasives to put mitigation as well as remove natives to put mitigation. So I think that's the biggest concern I have with this proposal is using a currently vegetated area as mitigation. Now the area is going to get damaged because of the construction of the wall, I'm assuming, Mark. So can you talk to me about the construction of the wall? How are they getting down there? How are they going to do this?
I'm going to go back to the screen.
If I missed that, I apologize.
Let's zoom back out a little bit. One point I did miss. There's another existing failing timber wall on a stump that's going to be removed and regraded with a gate. So main access of equipment and machinery will be around this side of the property. And then it is a proposed, one of these small block.
Okay.
Yeah, so there will not be a major footing. Most of the work can either be done by hand if someone does need to go down, or equipment in this area could, place those blocks down.
Okay.
And it'll be rebuilt that way.
Okay, thank you. So again, my concern would just be the mitigation. And I would hate to set a precedent by saying, oh, well, it was there in 2005, so therefore it doesn't need to get mitigated for. We usually, those structures are unpermitted. If they appeared in 2005, well, I started in 2005, so we were accepting applications back then. So those elements in red on the plan either should be removed or properly mitigated for it. The commission needs to determine if that's a proper area for mitigation, which in staff's opinion, I really don't think it is. But that's all I have for that, Mr. Chairman. And I think Mark addressed the other ones. And Mark, please no more aerials. That was really hard to read. And I know the commission found it hard to read. So it was interesting, but it just was difficult. So if you're ever going to do this again, for illustration purposes, I know you had a lot going on in this plan. If you could prepare one and submit one as well without the aerial background, that's fine too. So if you're going to use the aerial background, please submit a regular surveyed plan as well.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah, we felt it told the story, but also agree we'll provide.
Yeah, it was just, and
Understood.
I understand what you're trying to do, and you're trying to illustrate it for the board because you do have a lot going on here. But again, if you do feel that you need to use this type of format in the future to tell your story, submit that other survey plan for us, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I like the aerial. Ms. Bergeron.
No comments at this time. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Steve.
Thank you. Jen, I wonder if you could take a minute and help me understand where you might find a good spot for the mitigation. And I do think if I'm moving forward with allowing those structures, where would I mitigate for them? In your opinion, understanding you're not the landscape architect.
Was that question for me or for Mark, Steve?
Either of you.
To be honest, we'd have to relook at that. And it might actually be difficult to mitigate that amount of area in other spots on the site. Is my answer right now, I guess.
Okay, everything else is fine to me. I just need to know what we're going to do. If we allow it, we want to mitigate for it.
So what's there now is naturally vegetated. Is that correct? It's invasive, but it's naturally vegetated.
Naturally vegetated. Let me see if I can jump on to the pictures. It might take me a minute. And again, my computer might freeze if I try to jump on the server. But I'm already connected, so it should be all set.
I mean, I was looking at the pictures that Mark showed from April, and I mean, it's basically denuded. I mean, I'd rather see some nicer shrubs there. That's just my 2 cents.
If it's okay, I can share the staff report that has the pictures.
Yeah, the staff report has pictures, Jamie. I'm trying to see if I can bring some up for you.
Yeah.
It's gonna take me a minute to go
Yeah,
through.
that's the left side. And that's the right side.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. All right. All right, Betsy.
I think, Mark, you should be thinking about having a continuance and figuring out where to put some other mitigation. And I thought the aerial was interesting, but it took way too long to decipher what was going on. But, if you want to give a small one to give an overview, that would be fine.
All right, Courtney.
First of all, I note that you're going to use one of those Technoblock type walls which slope inward. So a small point, is the location of the base of the wall exactly where the current wall is? Or are you planning to move it out in order to have the top where it finishes up? I think that's a small point. My suggestion is that you not move the base. The base of the wall is where the existing wall is. You don't move the wall out to compensate for the slope. Okay, so you may lose a few inches at the top. I know that's being picky, but that's our job.
Agree. We can add a note that the base will be the base. Base of existing will be base of proposed.
Yeah,
Agree.
I mean, you're only talking about a few inches, but few inches are X number of mitigation plans.
Yep.
No other questions.
Thank you. Kevin.
I don't have any questions this time. I think Alyssa was going to make another comment. I'd kind of like to hear that.
Okay.
I just had an answer to your question, Jamie, about the vegetation.
Okay. All right, Kevin, are you good? Because I don't want to interrupt.
I'm good.
Okay. Alyssa, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. Based on what Mark's photo shows and when I was out there, I think it's primarily invasive vines. I think there's a lot of grape leaf out there. There were a couple ornamentals. There were some lilies. I tried to get down there and I actually sunk pretty deep. It was past my waist high. So I think based on what it looked like in April to now, the vines just sort of crawled towards the wall. I don't think there's no shrubs, just some herbaceous plants.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry if I missed your hand earlier.
No problem.
All right, Maury.
I just agree with Betsy. I think a continuance and to find a place for mitigation, because there looks like restoration and mitigation are being kind of overlaid here. And we don't want that to happen. And the other thing, if you could put the septic on the plan, just so we know where it is, because you're talking about an access route. And if it's if you don't know what the components are, I just don't want a failure running equipment up and down and around on top of it if it's in that location. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Dibb, what are you thinking?
We'll do a continuance. It was
Mark, I
either,
have September 13th available. The 23rd is not available.
okay,
Sorry about that.
we'll request a continuance to September 13th.
I'll make that motion. At the request of the applicant, we'll move to continue this to September already?
September 13th.
September 13th.
Wow.
Second, Bird second.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:13. Nothing else? We're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
Brian, I.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 13th. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you.
And next up, True Compass LLC, 179 BB Acres Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with associated garage, patio, and deck, and to install restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Dibb is still here to present his second project.
Excellent. Welcome back, Mr. Dibb.
Good evening, Mark Dibb again for a notice of intent project at 179 BB Acres for the applicant True Compass LLC. With your permission, I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So tonight we filed a notice of intent to raise and replace the existing dwelling on site, and which also includes a deck and patio, as well as a raised utility pad for utilities on the property. The existing site is located on BB Acres Road. There is a salt marsh to the south and around that wraps around the property. The entire property is located in a Falmouth A zone from the salt marsh, as well as land subject to coastal storm flowage. The existing lot also has, it's connected to sewer in the area, as well as has a driveway, some lawn area around the back, and vegetation throughout. The new structure is proposed to be either the same or further away from the resource areas. There's existing setbacks. There's also a coastal bank on the project. Existing coastal bank setbacks are 10 remaining 10. It's essentially being rebuilt in the same footprint, minor jogs. Existing house is being pulled back a little bit in this area, extended a little bit in this area, but the setbacks from both the salt marsh and coastal bank are not getting any closer. The 2 sheds on site will be removed, and roof drains for runoff will be provided. And there will be some tree removal. There's a number of trees. There's one here, there's a couple more along the house. There's a larger one that's growing sideways, existing pine, as well as a couple more. Basically, 8 of the trees are so close to the house that even under the existing conditions of the house really are danger to the house and need to be removed anyways, as well as the new house being 2 stories. These trees are being proposed to be removed as part of that work. There's also a dead tree out in this area and another pine tree that's quite diseased in this area. So we're proposing to mitigate and replace 10 trees with 12 trees shown at these locations on the property. Staff can let staff talk about their comments. There was just a mislabeled erosion control. This arrow should just be pointing to the appropriate area on the erosion control. And we would question was this, when this shed is removed, what it could be restored with. Northern bayberry, 2 to 3 gallons in size, 3 feet on center is what we could add to this note to propose to replace and restore the footprint of this shed. That is essentially the project, and open up to any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think our number one comments were the number of trees, and I can let Alyssa speak more on that since she conducted the site visit. But the site's just very overgrown, very shaded, and it's really hard to determine the number of trees, the appropriate number of trees that should be returned once the property is cleared out. So internally, staff was discussing that it might be better to allow us the flexibility to determine how many trees should be returned to the site after the site is cleared and the house is built, because it's just really difficult right now to determine if these trees are properly placed, just given the location, and whether they'll survive, because we don't want them. We've been going on a number of sites recently and seeing, mitigation trees that have been planted directly under the canopy of existing trees, and they're just not doing well. So if the board would allow the staff that flexibility in the order of conditions, that might be a more appropriate option, as opposed to just putting 10 dots on a plan and saying these are where the trees go. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Just to jump off of that, when I was out there, I think a lot of the trees are in the right general locations, but considering the heavy overhang of canopies and the overgrown nature of the site, it was just difficult to tell if those were the best locations for those trees. So seeing it afterwards, I think would be very helpful. Considering the heavy overhang of the canopy towards the house, I hope the contractors will be mindful of that and not just, shear half the canopy off of the trees, because all those branches are overhanging what could potentially be their access way. And if they'd like to do any trimming, hopefully they can just contact the staff and we can do a site visit of reconstruction potentially. Thank you for addressing the shed and what species could potentially be planted there. I think bayberry would do well. That shed appeared in aerials between 05 and 09, and I don't have any record of it obtaining a conservation permit. Is that square footage being utilized in the mitigation calculation for the home?
I believe it, let me just look at the table real quick. It would have been included in the existing.
Okay.
So if that was not permitted, then it could be reduced from that and may affect mitigation. I know it's 146 square feet. We had 77 extra, so.
Okay, so we may need to see some mitigation then.
Potentially could
Okay.
be, yes, 69 square feet in the A. So times 3, 207, which this project has 207 mitigation should be okay. We can identify that on the plan if we need to, or if that's something we could work out with the trees at that time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and the board can discuss if they want to, continue the hearing to see where that mitigation's going or close and require a revised plan or something. Our last comment, we did have some abutter questions, hoping that you can just verbally address to those who are listening. Considering that this property is in a flood zone and must be brought up to building code standards for homes in flood zones, can you describe how that first floor is being elevated? I didn't see any indication of, grading on the property or pilings, but I think the folks are just wondering how that first floor is going to reach that particular elevation, and is there any idea about the future height of the home?
So it will be a relatively standard concrete foundation. This is an A flood zone. It's not a V flood zone or anything like that. So it will not be, up on piles and open underneath. It will be a concrete foundation. It'll be one that is sticking out of the ground eventually, and will have, siding or stone face, some sort of finish on that foundation, and we'll have flood panels as needed. But there's no real intention to change the grading around the property. Just a little bit at the front door, just to work in the path, to tie in the existing path that's there. You'll see on the plan, I'll just share just real quick one more time, that there are a number of stairs to get didn't work, but it's a standard concrete foundation. The finished floor will be elevated with stairs up to that. That's essentially the project. And then the building height will meet zoning based on the average grade along the front, natural average grade along the front, and a building height of, it'll be less than 35 feet.
Great, thank you.
You're all set? Okay. All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
Mark, how many caliper inches of trees are coming down? Your Cape and Islands seems reluctant to give us caliper inches.
80.
They are on the plan. Try to share one last
And
time.
although Maury does a good job at adding them up while we're
79. It's 79 inches, not counting the one they don't have the size on.
including that big pine tree.
Yep. 80 inches.
Okay,
And plus the one right off the deck, they don't have, where it says 6x3 shrubs. That one doesn't have a caliper inch, so I don't know what that one is.
Okay, yeah, the rest do 6, 12, 10.
Yeah.
So roughly 80 inches.
Minus that big one by the house.
and you're giving us 12 for taking down 10?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see you bump that up a little bit. That's my only comment.
All right, Courtney,
The foundation, is that a full depth foundation or is it just crawl space?
It's basically a full depth. The existing basement slab is roughly 7. The finished floor is 16. So, you know, given the thickness of the floor, you know, it'll be relatively tight. It's just a garage and storage that'll meet, you know, flood regulations. But it's essentially a little bit less than a full foundation.
So all of utilities will be on the first floor?
Correct. We've proposed a platform just outside on one of the sides of the building. So yes, the utilities will be up at the appropriate elevation.
Okay. I have no other questions.
thank you. Jen, will you clarify for me caliper inch versus tree for tree? What our regulations actually say?
It gives you the discretion. It's either or.
Okay,
Oh, it's somewhere in between.
Yeah,
okay,
it allows the board the discretion to either do caliper inch for caliper inch, tree for tree, or as Betsy just said, somewhere in between.
okay. All right. And I mean, this is a lot where it's heavily treed, so I don't know.
Correct. It was difficult, as Alyssa said, for the staff to really evaluate, you know, how well these trees will do in the future, just given the overgrown nature of the site right now. So once
No, I
they
think
get
what you
in there-
proposed at the beginning is appropriate. Just, we try to avoid making you guys design the project, so.
No, correct.
I mean, this is one of those places where that's the perfect solution. It should wait until the end, really, you know? All right. Onward with commissioner comments. Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Maury.
I'm gonna follow up a little bit with Courtney. So the poured foundation, is it gonna be a 10-foot pour? Or is it, I mean, it's a 10-foot elevation change from the 6 foot that you're at grade. And then that's the first floor elevation of the existing house. Am I correct? 6'9"? It says 6'9" first floor elevation?
16.9.
16.9.
No, that's the proposed. The existing is 6.9. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and now the first floor is going to be 16.9, 10 feet. The first floor is going to be 10 feet higher.
Correct.
And what are the walls around that?
That will be concrete with flood panels. There will be a facade put on them. It'll look like the rest of the house. I've seen the architecturals. There's about 4 feet of like a stone veneer, and then the rest is going to be siding similar. As far as the actual height, since the garage slab is at 6.8 and the finished floor is at 16.9, you know, with so the top of the foundation will be about a 9-foot foundation because of just the spacing and the joists of the floor and things like that go along with the construction.
Yeah, it would have been helpful maybe on this particular one because it is such a huge difference between the first floor and the existing first floor and the proposed, that you would have submitted if you had those architectural, would have just been good for the abutters and the concerned people to see what they're going to be seeing. That's obviously was a big concern, because you can go to 35 feet is your limit. So I'm not that that's really in our purview, but I think it would have alleviated some of the concerns, and to submit them with a plan would have helped us as well. And I wouldn't have had to ask you that question. And I agree with the trees waiting to the end, because they haven't told us what size trees they're proposing, just the number. So I think once it's cleared, it would be much better to figure it all out. Thank you. And there's no
All right.
fill being brought on site.
Correct.
Correct.
You good?
Yep.
All right, Steve.
Thanks. Maureen, as frequently does, answers some interesting questions about the elevation. I have to think about that. The trees, I'm perfectly comfortable letting the staff allocate the number and location of the trees. That's it.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chairman. Somebody would like to be promoted up and would like to speak on this project, so I'll be promoting a John Levin up. While I do that, Mark, are you going to be revising the plans to show that mitigation that's going to be required for the shed that we don't have any permits on?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Levin, I've promoted you up to a panelist. We need thank you.
Okay, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm the one that brought up the concern about the elevation. And he's answered many of the questions, but I think share some of the, whether it's just be a big 10-foot high concrete box. I know it's gonna be covered with things, but the original reason that I was concerned about the elevation, the potential for water runoff, which we've seen with grading changes. And even if there's not a grading change, maybe that's not as big a concern as it would be with a grading change. But I wonder what this concrete box, sort of above ground basement is what it sort of sounds like, would have access to it, and whether they actually have any water mitigation requirements.
I know this, is it okay to speak, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I know this isn't typical, but I could share, I do have, I just pulled up some elevation views. So this is essentially the front of the house. Again, the existing house would be at this garage level. This is about, I think you'll see on the plan, there is an 8-foot contour that wraps around just the entrance. And what I'm saying is, so this area right here would be would be the concrete foundation. What they will do is through architectural, siding, there'll be about a 4-foot stone veneer, as well as the siding will continue down over what is the foundation. I think I could maybe show a second view, but no, I don't have that. So, it will not look like a concrete wall. There'll be a garage door. There'll be other components to it. I think that's the best I can answer regarding the architecture at this point.
Oh, but that's good, because that addresses one issue, that it's not going to look like a big concrete box. As far as the foundation, I mean, it's a foundation above grade, but it's still the footprint of what we're looking at. And it's what's required for the flood zone. So it'll have flood vents, so water can flow, and it can't have habitable space or equipment in it.
And the new house will have all the roof runoff will be captured and put underground. So between it should be a net improvement for the site on runoff.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So it's essentially, it's going to be an above ground crawl space that's going to be empty so that the water vents will not be blocked in any way, so that stormwater can in fact run through unimpeded.
Correct. Yes, there'll be some portion of at least two of the walls, two sides will have a certain amount of area that it may not, to the visual eye, it may not look like it's like a hole in this, but it's called a flood panel. It will break away at a certain amount of pressure. So that allows water to then flow in through that lower level space. And that lower level space is just a storage. You are allowed to park vehicles. But that's that's what that lower level space will be.
Okay, the vehicles won't impede the stormwater flow through the vents. How are they not if they're there?
The vents could be anywhere compared to where the vehicle is. It's an allowed type of construction, and it's allowed to have. This is only a one door there, so I assume it's just a one vehicle that will be parked in there. But zoning and building code allows this type of use in this flood zone.
You good, Mr. Levin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the zoning requirements for access for water through flood vents, so I have nothing else I can say. Thank you.
Okay. Courtney?
I mean, I know this isn't necessarily our purview, but though obviously your flood vents are going to be at grade, correct? Allow the water to go through. So in effect, you'll have a basement that could flood and end up with a subterranean swimming pool up to about 6 feet or whatever that is to where your flood vents are. That seems sort of irrational. And you want to store stuff down there. I mean, I guess you can do that. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's what the building code is. There are vents on either side. The water goes in one side and out the other.
Yeah, I know. But
And
the
then it
vents are
flows back the
the
other
vents
way
are at
when
grade,
the
and you got to
Oh,
Betsy,
calm
the
down.
vents are great, but the foundation goes down, so there's no place for the water to go when the flood comes below the vents. You're gonna have a pond down there.
Sorry.
Two things.
That's
the building code dictates how much square inches per square foot for flood vents, where they have to be located horizontally regarding the flood plain, the flood level. So it's to protect against that, for whatever that's worth. All right, anything else? Jen, you had something? No?
No, there's someone else that would like to speak. Marjorie
Okay.
Ross. She has some concerns about the water drainage problem. She says BB Acres has water drainage problems and this home Plan I. I don't know what she was trying to say. And they are also connecting to sewer, which is low lying and has water issues. Ms. Ross, I'm going to promote you up as a panelist so you can address the board or ask your questions. A lot of chats tonight. Thank you, Mr. Levin. Ms. Ross, if you can hear me, if you can unmute yourself and put your camera on, that would be great. And you can ask your questions to the board.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am.
So my question has to do with sewer and also water. Because the proposal was connecting to town sewer, which is in BB Acres Road. Some of the houses connect, some don't. It's rather low lying. It already collects water. And where they're elevating their home, there might be more water drainage and a potential for flooding in that area.
But it's not going to contribute any more than it is because the house is being elevated, but not the grade.
This house already is connected to sewer, so we're just going to continue to be connected to sewer.
I thought it was a new connection.
No, sorry, it is an existing connection.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Ross?
No.
Okay. Anyone else, Jen?
No more chats, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, what are we thinking?
So Mark, you need to revise the plan, and the board should see the mitigation. So you'll need a continuance. And I'm sorry, Mark, I missed a week when I told you about the last continuance. We do have August 30th available, and I really do apologize. I just missed that week when I was looking at the calendar. So if you want August 30th for this continuance, you can have it, or you can have September 13th.
We'll do the 30th for this one.
All right, I apologize on your last hearing, Mark.
I might need the time for that one. So,
I'll make a motion to continue, right? Continue this to September 30th.
Nope, August 30th.
August 30th. Sorry, Mark.
Third, second.
Mark, you're getting kicked so far down the curb, it isn't funny.
it was my bad start with the camera. I deserve it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a new moon, Mark. That's what explains everything at today's meeting.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this until August 30th. If there's no other, Jen?
One more thing, Mark, if you don't mind, could you submit the architecturals to us so we can share it with the abutters so that they can see the architecturals? It just might help them understand what's being built in their neighborhood.
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much.
Courtney?
Yeah, I think you might want to take the opportunity, Mark, to talk to your client about the depth of that basement. I think that's an issue from a practical standpoint, not necessarily from a conservation standpoint.
How would that change? He has to be up that high for the flood zone.
Well, no, but he's gonna go with a full depth foundation, and the breakout walls are great. He's gonna have 6 feet below that with no way to get the water out. That doesn't make sense.
I think you're misreading it. The bottom is at grade, but
Bottom is that great. It's on it's like a slab, and then it's building up, and then the vents are going to be that. Courtney, it's not going to be a full foundation.
Right.
Somebody I think might have misspoke earlier, but it's not going to be an excavated 6-foot foundation. Correct, Mark?
Correct.
Okay. I was under the impression it was full depth, 10 feet deep.
Well, I think he was trying to communicate that it's going to be a full height, but for practical purposes, it starts at
Okay.
grade.
So
It's
just
supposed to
so
have a
I
fall
understand, the flood windows there are going to be at the same level as this, or just above the slab.
Correct. Yeah, I think technically they're required to be 1 foot above, but
Yeah,
yes,
whatever,
essentially at
but-
the bottom.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till August 30th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 8:30. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you.
All right. The next one has already been addressed. Brings us to continued requests for hearing under notice of intent. Constance M. Ryan and Andrew Doyle, 151 T-Ticket Path, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to extend the existing revetment, construct access stairs, and nourish the bank. And for the record, Maury is not on this quorum. Do I have that correct, Ms. Bergeron? Okay. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Catherine Ricks from Coastal Engineering to present her continued project. Just for the board, gonna have to think back for this one. Last hearing was August 31st of 2022. Because we
Okay,
rewatched the
Yes.
hearing today.
Okay. Good evening, Catherine Ricks with Coastal Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. And yes, this one, I will kind of go over our previous one since it's been a while. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, of course it did that. 1 second. Did change the screens. Sorry, it shared the incorrect screen. Give me 1 second. Try this again. Oh. When you have so many monitors, it doesn't always work. Okay. So this project is at 151 T-Ticket Path, and we did present this last year, but then we had to get the full property line survey and additional information about the ownership and rights of the actual T-Ticket Path. So the project is a revetment extension along the shoreline of 151, which already has an existing revetment. This right here is showing the existing conditions survey with the additional information, and then just a zoom in on the ownership rights that go to the middle of that Keechipham Way. And so the project that was presented previously was the proposed revetment return, which extended to the property line, and then there was access. And the new proposal is to have the revetment return, and then due to the known ownership now to the middle of the roadway, we are proposing to remove the lower split rail fence that's along the beach and remove the concrete wall, as well as the stairs that I can show here. Remove all this, the split rail fence, the concrete wall, and all that debris and semi stairs that are there, just based on the safety of it. Remove all of that now that they know that they own to the middle of that. They hadn't placed it there, it was just there. So they want to remove that and just regrade that area. The upper split rail fence to be removed for construction, but then put back just as an ending to the roadway there. And then you can see the access that we have on here and the regrading around the end of that roadway. This is just the cross section of that revetment return. So I know previously one thing that was asked was, instead of doing the revetment all the way to the end to the property line, was to use soft solution. So here, and hadn't done it on the plan yet, but I wanted to present this as the red would be just the return and tapering down of the revetment on their property to a portion of soft solution. And then the last portion to the property line, and then also within that ownership rights of the to the middle of that way there, would be regrading that to a more stable slope.
Excuse me, Ms. Ricks, was this presented to the staff?
Previously, we had presented the revetment all the way, but this is just something that last time I know it was asked about doing the soft
But
solution.
you did not submit this to
Not
the
yet,
staff
no.
to review? Not
No,
yet?
this is something I just wanted to address some questions that had come up previously, but we haven't changed the design yet.
Okay.
We submitted the updated existing conditions plan with the property line, and then also the change in the grading. But I know that there was questions on the change to a soft solution.
And I just wanted to get comments on that before doing the full design change.
How are you supposed to get comments from the staff when we are seeing this for the very first time at 9:20 in the evening? We can't provide you any comments without having to fully look at this and, think about it. And I'm not prepared. I know Alyssa won't be prepared, and I really don't think the board's going to be prepared to offer you any sort of meaningful comments when we're seeing something for the very first time at 9:30 at night.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can
Then I
proceed,
can just-
but we're going to have
Okay.
another continuance, and this will need to be provided to us.
Yes, I assume there was going to be another continuance. Can we discuss the changes to the items that are in the right of way with the removal of the split rail
fine.
and the, okay. These are just updated pictures of the bank erosion, and I can go back to these. So this was something that we had submitted, was removing the concrete wall, the haphazard stairs that are there, and then fully removing the bottom split rail fence, but for construction, only removing the top one, but replacing that as it is kind of the symbol of the end of the way that's there. So if you want to discuss that, we can discuss that.
No, I mean, most of our comments, Ms. Ricks, were going to be on what were the alternatives. It didn't really seem like this plan had addressed any of our past comments, like alternatives, looking at putting the return somewhere else. I mean, if you had provided us, we got a plan with no narrative, no anything, no alternatives that you looked at. So in order to provide you with any sort of meaningful comments, we would want a chance to review it and not have to come up with these comments, on the fly during a hearing. That's not the way this board operates. So, again, most of our comments were going to be, where is the information we asked for a year ago? So you kind of threw me here with all of a sudden presenting a plan that you didn't submit to us.
I apologize. I haven't been in front of Falmouth very often. I thought I could present it at the hearing and we could go over it just to understand where we're looking at, how far you were looking at doing the revetment, but we can submit.
You can proceed and, but I am not going to provide any comments to this board or make any recommendations. I am going to recommend a continuance, have you submit the proper paperwork to this board so they can review it. And then we can kind of proceed from there. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
This review should be done with staff. Shouldn't be under a hearing
Okay.
No, it should not.
Yeah.
setting.
And I actually did try to call you today as Miss Ricks, but getting through to your company on that phone, I called 3 separate times and I just getting looped around. So I did try to reach out to you today to say, where is our information? So we just we weren't able to connect.
Yes, I apologize. I didn't receive any messages today.
No, I called, I kept getting, no one was available. So I just finally, after the third time, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I thought I kept dialing the wrong number, but you can proceed and just kind of give us a brief overview and then submit the information to us and we'll continue it.
Okay. Well, at this point, the main thing is that we did get that survey done and the information so that they do have the rights to the center of that way. So they are looking to, now that they understand that they have that, they're looking to, shorten the revetment, do the soft solution, and then regrading that into there by removing that concrete wall that is there and the debris and steps that are there and that lower fence. So I don't know if there's any questions on that part or how the commission feels about regrading the end of that with the removal of those items that are over there.
Well, I'd like to see the regrading as it's tied into the rest of your project, which again, I'm not able to comment on right now because I don't know what the rest of your project is.
Okay.
Jen, in the interest of efficiency, why don't we just continue this?
Okay.
Yes.
I
Okay.
mean.
So
you
Ms.
know,
Ricks, please submit your updated design on all the alternatives we had discussed. We did go back, we spent the time looking at our last hearing. There are a number of comments and questions and concerns the board has. It looks like you're on your way to addressing them, but I don't know.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I apologize.
it's okay.
I haven't been in front of Falmouth often to
No worries. It just
usually.
I think this is the first time we've seen you actually, but
Yeah.
it's fine. Just please submit that to us as soon as possible, so it gives us time to be able to, you know,
Yes,
if staff has concerns, we can reach out to you and maybe do a Zoom or something, kind of work through the project with you, and then have all our concerns at a staff level addressed, and then we can present it to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So if you need the redesign within a week prior to the hearing, is that correct?
Well, I'd like it a little sooner than that, so we have the time. So if we have concerns, we can meet with you. I mean, if you have the plans done.
The plans aren't done. It's just we've sketched it out and considered it. That's why I wanted to discuss, but totally understand that you want it prior to that. So if you just let me know how much before the meeting we have to submit it, then I'll be able to know which date to continue it
So
to, unless you need to continue it.
Why
because
don't
of
we do this? Why don't we set up, let's continue this out a few weeks. We'll set up a Zoom with you early next week to go over your design before you finalize it on a plan, to see if Alyssa and I have any like glaring concerns that I know this. I've worked with this board for close to 20 years. I kind of know what, at least some of their concerns. Some of the members have worked with for close to 20 years. So Betsy and Courtney and Maury. You know, based on the last hearing, I can kind of anticipate some of the concerns they have, and we can go through that, your design, early next week, and then you can finalize your plans and then submit those a couple of weeks before the hearing. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good.
Perfect. So why don't we continue you out to the 13th, and that'll give us some time. September 13th. Oh, no, I will not be here on the 13th. August 30th.
Okay.
So at the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing till August 30th.
Second, O'Brien.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 8:30. Everybody clear on what the continuance is all about? Any other questions or comments? All right. We're voting on the continuance to 8:30. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve,
No.
it is unanimous. We have continued this until August 30th. Thank you.
Chairman,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve has a question.
Catherine, if you want to just get a hold of us Thursday or Friday, we can schedule a Zoom with you early next week.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right,
Thank you.
Steve?
I just want to request that we get a plan prior to the meeting as well.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Agreed.
Steve, we'll make
Yeah.
sure of it. You'll get a
Yeah.
plan 2 weeks before.
I keep plans for a while, but a year?
We get it,
Slacker.
Steve.
All right. The next two had been previously continued, which brings us up to request to extend an existing order of conditions. Steve and Stephanie Kazak, 39 Jetty Lane, Falmouth, Mass. DEP number 25-4446. Request a 3-year extension. Jen?
So yes, Mr. Chairman, this was a kind of coastal dune buffer zone restoration project that ended up in a settlement agreement with this commission. They are requesting a 3-year extension to replace some of the restoration plantings that have not survived and to continue their maintenance activities. I think 3 years is
This agreement was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's lengthy. I would rather
Mary and
see,
I participated.
yeah. I mean, I would recommend a 1-year extension, and if they need to extend it again, they can come to us, but I think our 3-year extension is a bit lengthy in this case.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion for a 1-year extension.
Bird second.
All right, any questions or comments? Okay.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and like Jen said, I mean, if worse comes to worse, they can come back for another extension, but, you know, I think it's a great project, but it's already gone on for 5 years, so. All right, so the motion in the second is to grant a 1-year extension, and that's what we're voting on. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 1-year extension. Next up, vote orders of conditions. Bear with me 1 second.
I know, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yeah. Courtney, you're not on the next two, but you are on the third one.
Can we,
if you wanna
take
hang on.
Mooney out of order?
Let's see why not.
Yeah, sure.
Order of conditions. All right, you ready, Jen?
Hang on 1 second, just shuffling
Hang on.
papers around. Trying to be as quick as possible. 151 just kind of threw me. Oh, cool. All right. Mooney, is that the one we're doing? 188.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna take the order conditions and amended order conditions out of order. So first up will be amended order conditions. James F. Mooney III, 188 Gansett Road Realty Trust, 188 Gansett Road, Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Oh, give me 1 second. They were reducing the pool and cabana, relocating the spa, reconfiguring the full deck, installing the crushed-stone utility with the generators. They revised their proposed retaining wall mitigation areas. They increased their cedar trees and proposed an irrigation well. And I think the biggest concern the staff have, and I've already addressed this with the project representatives, is you're not alerting the staff to the removal of that grove of cedars that was supposed to remain. I think that was the most upsetting to me. But that has been since cleared up, and it will not happen again. They will inform us the next time that happens prior to replanting it. But other than that, I don't think we had any major concerns. Alyssa, did I miss something? Probably did. I can't.
I don't have any other notes, so I think you're good.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just, it was a pretty straightforward amendment until that whole issue came up that big grove of cedars had been removed and the whole thing was replanted without our input. So I think
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
amended.
Bird second.
Amended order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, any other questions or comments? Anything anybody wants in there? Going once, twice, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thanks, Courtney. You're dismissed.
Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Night,
the rest of the
Courtney.
evening. Yeah, thank you.
And now that we know you can get into, well, when he's gone.
That's why I came early, so I could leave early. All right. Vote orders of conditions. First up, Joseph and Kristen Polumba, 19 Santuit Road, Falmouth, Mass.
That's cancer. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Construction fencing around trees. All right, so I know we're protecting trees. Got that. Oh, this is the little raise and rebuild. Raise and
Yeah.
rebuild, new septic, mitigation along the western edge of the property, and they're putting construction fencing around to save the trees. There's currently 1, 2, 3, 4 trees along that western property edge that they are going to protect. Actually, 5 ones on the property line. Nope, 6. I can't count. 6 trees that they're going to protect. Yep, just a simple raise and rebuild.
That's all I had.
All right. Anything anybody wants in there? All right.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed, including protecting those trees.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further, we're voting for an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, I.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Leah Decoteau, trustee, Shanklin Family Real Estate Trust, 663 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is the beach nourishment, but it's this is a little, so the beach nourishment up here, so it's above the revetment. It's almost like their yard, their backyard where the sand is. But also next to the revetment, they're proposing some beach nourishment. Although I don't think Natural Heritage caught that. This was the project where we were very surprised. We got a no-take letter from Natural Heritage without a time of year restriction when we know there are plovers out there and they've been running back and forth in front of that exact property this year. And I think they just missed that note because it was more kind of grayed out where the duney area was, where the revetment wasn't. And so the only special condition that I would suggest putting on this is the time of year restriction to protect the shorebirds, because they are there and they do utilize that beach.
I think there is also a discussion of some beach grass in.
Correct. They keep planting.
Corner.
Yeah, the beach grass isn't taking. Well, that's because they keep putting more sand on it and kind of smushing it. So if they kind of left that beach area alone and enhance that,
Build up a little bit of a
because
dune
that was
there.
mitigation. That beach grass was actually mitigation for a prior project. That's what I have.
Okay, Maury,
And then we had the compatible sand. I'm sure that's probably. in the
Yeah, that's
general.
standard. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
and they were looking for a 6-year permit. That's kind of,
No,
yeah.
How about a 3-year permit and they can ask for an extension?
Yeah, I agree with that. And they're gonna do, grading notes. What am I trying to say?
Profiles, we can have them do
Thank you.
profiles
Sorry.
on the section of the beach next to the revetment. I really don't think profiles are necessary for above the revetment. It's basically in between the house because the sand's getting washed out. It's not a traditional yard. It's just all sand.
Right.
So
No, but it, you know, with their request to go for 6 years, I would think we'd want some proof, so to speak, that it's necessary.
Yeah.
yes, because they did say that because we hadn't had profiles before, and they did say that their last permit they've only done it once, and they did it in April because they were under the gun of that time of year restriction. They were trying to get everything in. So they've only done it once, and they did submit the post surveys, the post nourishment surveys to us. So, but that'll be, again, it will mirror that last permit with the time of year restrictions and the monitoring requirements.
Okay. All right. Maury?
Is there a limit on how many cubic yards they can put on? I can't remember. If there is, just make sure it's in there.
I think they did.
60
wasn't it
cubic yards.
50? 50?
60 to 100.
60.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right,
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Carlo Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we're voting on issuing an order of conditions. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. And before we take the last motion, thank you guys for your patience tonight. It's kind of an odd night, but
Sorry, that happens sometimes.
no, it does. And one particular hearing, I don't think was anything that you guys, meaning staff, could have prevented. I think it was a procedural misunderstanding on the applicant's part, but I didn't see any point in going for other comments with
No, we'll
such a
have
lack of
Zoom.
information.
Yeah, we'll have
You
a
know.
Zoom and figure that out.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. Last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn, Carlo Hawks.
I'll second.
O'Brien.
Nobody wants to go.
Nobody wants to leave.
And I'll start with Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney's not here. Matthews, aye.
Brian, aye.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We
Good night,
are
all.
adjourned. Thank you,
I
everyone.
know.
Good night.
Enjoy the beautiful new moon.
Yeah, that's what brought the crazies out.
Mm.